Welcome into this Monday edition of the Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio here with you just for 1 o'clock as we are getting started. We just talked to Lane Kiffin, and all thoughts are on Damarcus Thomas, the Ole Miss freshman who sustained some type of injury today during practice. Lane Kiffin visibly shaken during his media opportunity with us.
We were getting some calls about it.
Yeah, literally right before
Kiffin came in, and Kiffin was a little late. And when he got in, he had to leave again, and I knew at that point it was confirmed. And to his credit, they didn't try to fake their way through a media day. And Ole Miss absolutely did the right thing. We were going to talk to a number of players. Tomorrow's an off day, in large part because Ole Miss doesn't play this week, and also because tomorrow's the election.
NCAA mandated day off for the election.
Yeah, so from a media standpoint, no players were going to be available. So they were going to give us a bunch of players today, but they did the right thing and didn't, and thanks to them. So we'll get some players on Wednesday, but today all of the thoughts were on Damarcus Thomas. Lane updated us there at the end with what is hopefully good news, probably feels like good news in these deals, and that is that after he did not have feeling apparently on the field for quite some time before he left, he was actually he had some movement and he had some feeling. I don't know how much. Lane didn't say. Lane was clearly somewhat relieved.
There was a little bit there.
Very upset, very shocked. This is so scary with football. You always know it's a dangerous game. You know something can happen like that, but when it does, it's just horrible. So, thoughts and prayers and all of that, and the update was probably as positive as you can get
given the current situation. So we'll get into that a little more. Austin Barbour, kind of our in-house political consultant over the last almost decade, has been doing this podcast. There's clearly a bit of an election tomorrow, so we'll talk about that as well today, majority of the show. But anyway, podcast brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Speed Pass Plus app, download it, use it, be on your way. It's an efficient, easy way to get your fuel with the Oxford Exxon at all Blue Sky locations in Mississippi and get back on the road. The lunch specials at Oxford Exxon, $5.69, 2 sides bread, 32-ounce drink, and more. So take advantage out on Highway 6 and at all Blue Sky locations again, up and down I-55 and throughout Mississippi. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for, and he'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. 662-257-1900. Guest, including Austin Barbour, will join us on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square is open. Be a good place for Monday Night Football. And then, of course, a weekend of football. Ole Miss has the weekend off, but others are playing. So you could go there, and you could watch at Rafters. Also Rafters in New Albany and Rafters on the Water in Sardis.
So, I guess a little more on Damarcus Thomas. Jerry and Ely told us, Jerry and player came in prior to them cutting player interviews today, that it was a normal football play. I think he called it a freak accident or freak incident or something like that. I was kind of typing as much as I was listening, but nonetheless, he said something along those lines when really just scary. Apparently just kind of went limp on the field. Lane Kiffin said that they tested him for movement throughout Lane being on the field with him. They could not get any feeling, could not get any movement from him during that time. They had called an ambulance. They were waiting on a helicopter at one point. He was incredibly shaken. He was hoping for a very severe stinger at that point, but you could tell that his mind was everywhere else. He said that a bunch of assistant coaches, just logistically because it's their jobs, were asking him about whether he still needed referees or anything like that. And he said once it happened, seeing what he saw, what the team saw, there was no way to continue practice. I think I couldn't care less was the direct quote he gave as far as referees or practice or anyone else.
The quote that got me, and I think the one that shook me up because I can relate to it, obviously we don't know Lane Kiffin all that well just yet because the pandemic has made our interactions Zoom-related. But the one thing that's obvious about Lane Kiffin is that he loves his kids, and he and his son Knox are super close.
Yeah.
And he said that he called before he got to us. So this was his immediate reaction as a human being, as a dad, was that he called Knox's mom and said, I could care less if he ever plays football again. And football, for those of you who don't know, is a huge part of his life, not only as his head coach, him being a head coach, but his dad, Monty, is an absolute freaking legend in the NFL over all the years. So that tells you how traumatic it must have been out there and how it struck Lane Kiffin, the human being, beyond Lane Kiffin, the football coach. And I think we have a tendency sometimes, I know I do, to forget.
You hit the audition button, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's
right,
rolling.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You got me paranoid now. Yeah, we're rolling.
Okay.
I think we have a tendency sometimes to forget that these are people.
There was such the human element to that press conference of catching him right in the aftermath where, I mean, not hyperbolic at all. He was traumatized and shaken to the point that he couldn't think.
Yeah.
He was getting asked questions not about Damarcus Thomas, and he at one point he goes, "Look, I'm here because I have to do my job. That's why I'm in the room right now. I don't know anything more than I've told you." And look, here's one thing too. I mean, I will give some credit here in a couple of different spots from a media standpoint, a media relations standpoint for Ole Miss, for Lane as a media relations person. They could have avoided telling us anything right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To his credit, he opened up and said, "Hey, here's what happened."
It was going to get out because literally when he sat down, I was preparing a tweet that says a player. I had 3 sources.
Yeah.
At that point, I felt good about it. Not felt good about that it had happened, but felt good that I was correct in saying something had happened. I've never seen audition look like this, so we'll see what the hell this means from a recording standpoint. I've never seen it look like this normally.
Is it doing the little thing, though, where it says recording and all's good?
Well, it's recording for sure. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the time, 7 minutes, 17 seconds, but I've never seen the top look like this. I mean, you can come look at it if you want to. It's a live podcast.
You want me to come look at it?
It doesn't matter to me. It is what it is. I mean, I don't know that either one of us could fix it.
At this point, we're just riding with this boat no matter what, aren't we?
Well, I mean, in all likelihood, it's just an odd look. I've never seen it look like this. I mean, it's moving. It's recording. But you know how normally in the first block you see the green and all that stuff? It's just all up at the top.
Chill.
Yep. You ever seen it look like that? I mean, I did what I've always done with audition.
I think you're recording inside a multi-track file instead of a one file. Is what I think you're doing. Because we see files all over the bottom too.
I'm going to stop the recording and start a new recording. And we'll merge them together. It recorded. Yes, we've got it right there, so I'll just start a new one right here.
You good?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably fine anyway.
Yeah, I think it was.
I'm just saying that was. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Web Moore, thank you as always. Appreciate you for the super chat. Thank you for just joining our stream, whatever, every single time for the most part.
I think you're right, by the way. I think I hit multi-track, and it would have been fine.
It would have been fine.
Yeah.
Says, you good? Yep. Said, good to see y'all. Thanks for thoughts on Thomas. Thoughts for Thomas. Sorry, and so it reminds me of Chucky. Prayers. What are your thoughts on Coach O? Getting on the hot seat soon. Could y'all do a political HRG on Wednesday, Thursday? Good haircut, Chase. Thank you. Blow dry bar. You can find them online. We will do our normal show on Thursday, and if you guys, look, you guys set the agenda for the Thursday show for the most part. You guys call in, we talk about whatever you ask us to talk about. We follow the stream pretty closely, so that's really up to you. As far as one Tuesday or Wednesday, no. I think Neal and I both, probably no matter the situation, but for sure in one specific situation, we're probably going to sit with something and just watch on Tuesday night in our separate abodes and go from there. So.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea.
The truth is, I want to watch the post stuff, one way or the other. I think it's potentially fascinating. I mean, it's a fascinating day in our country. I wrote this in 10 Thoughts. One way or the other, a very powerful indictment gets sent by the American people.
There's no doubt about that.
And we'll talk to Austin about it in a little while. I don't think we're going to know Tuesday night. We're wrong. Hope I'm wrong. I hope one of them wins in a landslide.
I did see the SEC shorts. It was very good this week.
It was good.
It was very funny.
It was good.
LSU was on trial as a sucky defending national champion this week.
And the jury was a collection of other sucky defending national champions, and LSU's kind of like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, 2011 Auburn or 2011 Auburn being there was my favorite because the way the Chiswick Orgeron dynamics are somewhat interesting right now, but nonetheless, it was funny. It was really good. So
the news in the SEC today, by the way, is about Dan Mullen, who basically started a fight and is going to be
egged on the fight.
And is going to be fined the same amount that Lane Kiffin got fined for hitting the retweet button.
Yes. If you're Lane, you almost have to get fined again. Like, I would be tempted to get fined again. Is it the same fine, or does the fine go up the second time?
I don't know.
Because it might be worth $25,000.
Had today's practice not had what happened, he
sure.
very well may have
said,
just the shoulder shrug emoji would have been good.
Just some statement. You know what I mean? Hey, I heard what happened with Dan. Okay. Interesting. Player suspended, though.
Yeah.
Well, no. Dan got a very stern reprimand. It said that in the subject. I've got it right here. Chuck Dunlap sent out the email that says SEC issues player suspensions, head coach fine, and reprimand.
Mm-hmm.
No, there is a reprimand. There is no place in college football for the kind of incident that took place at halftime of the Missouri at Florida game Saturday, Greg Sankey said.
Florida defensive lineman Zach Carter and linebacker Antoine Powell were ejected for the remainder of the game for fighting. Missouri outside linebacker Trey Williams was ejected for a flagrant, unsportsmanlike conduct foul. So they all have suspensions facing them. In addition, following a video review of the incident, the SEC office has issued a half-game suspension for Missouri linebacker Chad Bailey, offensive lineman Dylan Spencer, and defensive lineman Markel Utsey for fighting during the game. Each will miss the first half of Missouri's game versus Georgia on November the 14th. So no Florida players no additional Florida players got in trouble? Really?
Well, they got hit with a $25,000 fine.
I mean,
come on.
Come on.
Maybe there is something.
What does Biden say? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is wow.
What's the joke? Get so mad at Kentucky, you put Cleveland State on probation?
Yeah. In the SEC, we got so mad at Florida that we really punished Missouri. We'll show Missouri. We'll show you, Florida. We'll make sure that Missouri does not beat Georgia.
I mean, in all seriousness, I bet that.
Oh my gosh.
I bet the Missouri message board's really good right now. We're skipping. Are we on the right Wi-Fi network?
To my knowledge, unless it skipped on its own. Yep, we're on the right one.
Let me get off one. We'll see. Grind actually making a really good point. You can't mess up that big Georgia-Florida game coming up.
Yep.
Hey.
Yep.
I will buy that one.
I do too.
I completely buy that conspiracy.
I do too.
I'm not even sure it's really a conspiracy. Yeah, I think for some reason me just being on the network was causing a problem.
Brandon says, Neal, fix your internet. You have no idea the amount of attention.
We have two internets.
The amount of attention that my internet situation has gotten since the pandemic is difficult for me to put into words. Spent a lot of time on internet. Supposedly the fiber optic is going to be up and running here soon. They've already dug it. It's already here. I just don't think it's connected yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. With AT&T?
It's with
or is it the Spark thing?
Northeast Power, right?
Oh, it's the Spark thing.
I guess so.
Isn't that what that is?
Hell, I don't know. I asked a few times, never really got great answers.
Well, I mean, come on. It's not really important, right?
What do you do?
I mean, it is what it is. Let's see. All right, we're going to go to Austin in a couple minutes. But before we do that, let me tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. 30 years old this year. One of the oldest mortgage companies in the Southeast. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
The Ole Miss men's and women's basketball teams want you in the pavilion this season. Season tickets on sale now can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com. We're also brought to you by Jupiter Security Systems. They're based in Madison, Mississippi. Jupiter Security Systems provides your business with a help desk, allowing you to get software at a much cheaper price than you would pay going directly to Microsoft or the different cybersecurity services. Look, here's the deal. We wouldn't be able to do a whole lot of the stuff we've been able to do without Eric and the people at Jupiter. Do us a favor. If you have computer needs, you have business computer needs, get in touch with Eric, 601-519-9583, info@jupitersecurity.net. We're also brought to you by the College Corner. It's your one-stop Rebel Shop, 2 locations in the Jackson area in Ridgeland. It's next to Fleet Feet, and in Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, not a problem. Go to collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Also brought to you by our friends at Dead Soxy, DEADSOXY.com, deadsoxy.com, the best socks you'll put on your feet. Enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. Get 30% off all of your orders. And we're brought to you by our friends at Blue Delta Jeans. You've seen us model. You saw me, quote, model, end quote, the other night. You can get the duck canvas. You can get the 4-way stretch cotton. You can get all of that stuff for yourself. Get your favorite pair of Blue Delta Jeans. The studio is open, but if you want to make an appointment just for you, you can do that. Just get in touch with them at info@bluedeltajeans.com or hop into their DMs at Blue Delta Jeans on social media as well. Just because you won't be in the Grove this year doesn't mean you don't need to look your best for game day.
Podcast is brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com is the website. Go see all the events that are going on in town. You can see where to stay, where to eat, more and do and see. Also tell you about Cedric Burnside's going to be on the doing a balcony concert at End of All Music Friday on the 6th at 5 o'clock for that. Also the Literally Bit of Festival sponsored by YAC. You can find out details there at oxfordarts.com. And then, of course, all the drive-in movies we've been telling you about for several weeks. That continues, and oxfordfilmfest.com is the place for more there. But again, calendar events every single day being updated. Again, that's visit oxfordms.com.
All right, so we're going to get to Austin now. He sent me a number. I'm going to pull it up. It was a bit of a morning scramble. It happens. All's well that ends well.
All's well that ends.
Hopefully it ends well.
Been a bit of a day.
That's the thing that always shakes me up if I'm telling the truth. Like just the other day, someone mentioned Carson playing football, and we actually kind of talked about it a little bit. That's what always scares me. And I have a practice that I remember from Ruston High School where I had a weird kind of a stinger kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the coach saying, you know, if you hit somebody like that, you're going to get paralyzed. Thinking, well, I wasn't trying to hit somebody like that. It just happened, you know, and it always sort of struck me.
It's like Healy said, it goes basic football play. Just a freak thing.
30-something years later, that play resonates in my mind. It was a practice. I can remember who exactly. I hit Roderick Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember everything about it. It was a Tuesday afternoon practice on the baseball field.
Hello.
Hello, Austin. Austin Barbour, kind enough to join us here on Election Eve. How are you, sir?
Hey, Neal. How you doing?
I'm good. Chase Parham here as well. So before we get into the national stuff, I'm curious just kind of your overview of some of the state stuff. What do you expect in the state Senate race between Cindy Hyde-Price and Mike Espy?
Cindy Hyde-Smith.
Cindy Hyde-Smith. Did I say Price? I'm sorry. My mind's shot, man. And also, what do you expect to happen on the flag?
Good questions. Well, I mean, I'd say amendment the 65 and 65A are maybe equally as curious and important.
I was going to ask you about that.
Which, of course, is dealing with medical marijuana, but you were throwing me some softballs before it.
I was going to ask you about marijuana. We were going to get there.
Yeah. Look, I think Cindy Hyde Smith wins by, I'm going to say 5 to 7 points. Pretty similar spread to what she won by 2 years ago. I think SP had the race pretty close to dead even about a month ago. But in campaigns, like sports, don't peak too early. And he just had such a cash advantage. He was able to just money whip her for a long time, and then she finally was able to catch back up and start contrasting on TV and has gotten back to a comfortable lead. I think the flag amendment will pass. I think most people are just sick of it and want it to go away. And what's the best way to get it to go away? Just vote yes, and then the issue goes away.
So I talked to someone,
so
Austin. I talked to someone, Austin, who said 61%ish that it would pass, which is a pretty big number. He said that those were the internals that they were getting. Yeah, on the flag, 61% that it would pass. Which I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised because it's kind of a rebellious nature with stuff like this that I thought it would be super close, but. Austin? May have lost him there.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
There you are. I don't know what happened. I have seen no polling, so I just don't know. But that person's guess is as good as anything to me. But I do think it passes.
What about medical marijuana? Obviously, it's a topic that has gotten a lot of attention here of late in the state. Chase and I were talking about it earlier today before we even got started on the show. Actually, before he even got here, the governor has certainly put a lot of attention on this particular piece of legislation. What do you expect?
It is going to be very close. State law mandates that in order for a constitutional amendment to pass, it's got to get 40% of what the total turnout was for that race. So let's, easy numbers. If 1 million people vote, 65 or 65A has to get at least 400,000 votes. 65A is probably not going to get that, but 65, which is the one that everybody's mostly focused on, it'll be really close to whether it gets over that 40% threshold or not. And if I had to guess, I may have spent so much money, I'd say it probably does, but I could see it getting just under 40% and not passing.
Was it politically necessary to have 65 and 65A here? Because it seems like you would have a better chance of passing it if you just had one or the other.
It's a legislative deal, Chase. I mean, it's a great question. 65 is, I'm sorry, but it's the folks who want that, the medical marijuana national industry, and those in Mississippi who were for this. That is their language. That is their constitutional amendment that they got, hundreds of thousands of people to sign to put on the ballot. 65A, which is the alternative constitutional amendment language, it is what the legislature put on the ballot, which basically all it says is that you are mandating to the legislature that they must go deal with this issue. That's it. There are really no teeth in it. It just says, hey, y'all got to go figure this out. It really causes confusion more than anything. I just think there'll be a tremendous undervote on that constitutional amendment, which means you're going to vote for Trump or Biden, you're going to vote for Hyde Smith or SB, and maybe a couple others. And by the time you get down to that, man, your damn eyes are going to be glazed over, and most people will go, I don't know, and just skip it.
Oh.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I
lot.
I undervote all the time because I don't keep up with some of the state stuff as much as I keep up with some of the national stuff, and I realize that I'm flawed in that way or whatnot. But I'll often vote for what I want to vote for, and I'll start, especially with local stuff with like some judge race that's or whatever. I'm like, I don't know, so I just skip it because I don't want to accidentally vote for the wrong person, so I just leave it alone.
But let me say one more thing. That is a complicated question because the first question is basically, do you want medical marijuana or not? Yes or no. And then you have to go, you vote yes or no. If you vote yes, then you have to go and select which one do you want, 65 or 65A. So if you just vote yes and then you don't select 65 or 65A, you didn't do anything. It's a complicated process, guys.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so the rumor is they're going to have a presidential election tomorrow. All jokes aside, it's like almost 100 million people, and it might be more than that by now. I haven't looked at the news in hours. But it was more than 92 million the last time I saw had already voted, which is an incredible number. And I realize that it's a pandemic and all of those things, but that is an amazing number, one that I've had kind of a difficult time wrapping my mind around. And I know you do political races and consulting and all of those things for candidates all over the country. Just your thoughts when you hear that number of the number of people who have already voted. What do you think?
Can't process it. I mean, how can you process that many people have voted? Look, they have already, I think it was like last Thursday or Friday, they had exceeded their 2016 turnout in places like Texas. Just crazy. Now, obviously, they have, hundreds of thousands of new people who move into that state every year, but still, it's crazy. I mean, we are, y'all have said this number a lot lately. It's 130 plus million who voted in 16. It's either 135, 132, or 137. I can't remember. But we're well on track to hit 150 million or more people.
I saw someone.
It's staggering.
I saw someone say they expect 160 million votes, which is great. That means people are voting. I mean, that means everyone's exercising their right as an American citizen to go vote, which is awesome. I mean, you want the people to speak, but man, that's a big number.
It's a lot of people. It is. So if you're a campaign, what you're typically freaking out about is turnout. How do we get our people to go vote? Well, you ain't got to worry about that. I mean, I'm sure they've been doing typical get out the vote, exercises the last couple of weeks, but everybody's going to vote. So it's different for these campaigns.
So I've got the realclearpolitics.com updates from, I don't know, when I got ready for this probably about an hour ago. So maybe some of these have changed. I don't know. They do a pretty good job of keeping it updated as the polls come in. Trump is down. I'm trying to find it here. Trump is down in the general election by about 6 points. That doesn't necessarily matter. There are some new polls out. Rasmussen has Trump only down 1, but Rasmussen leans pretty far to the right, been my experience. The ones that matter, though, the state ones, when you look at Pennsylvania, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, I mean, there's a bunch of these that have been that are all over the place. Which ones are you keeping a closest eye on going into tomorrow to maybe for a trend as to what's going to happen?
So let me give I'm going to answer that question and kind of give best case for Biden, best case for Trump. I mean, best case for Biden is he ends up getting 300 plus, electoral college votes, and this is a no-brainer, easy election for him. I think best case for Trump is he gets about 280. Maybe just a smidge over 280 is probably the best that he could do. But to me, and I've really been saying this for about 10 days or so forth, it's clear Trump has gained a lot of momentum. Now, a lot of that is he's just campaigning so much harder than Biden is. And I think that's a lot about strategy in terms of what the Biden campaign is willing to do. And obviously, Trump is just out there everywhere fighting for his life. And he's obviously very comfortable in front of big crowds, and that's what he likes to do. But the 3 states that matter to me the most are going to be North Carolina and Arizona 1 and 2, and then Pennsylvania 3. Look, I think Trump's going to win Florida. Yep. I think Trump is going to win Georgia. He's going to win Ohio and Iowa. This is me. I think he's going to lose Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. But these, North Carolina is so close, and I think and there's no question about Arizona as well. He won both of those states 4 years ago. If he wins North Carolina and Arizona and does what I think he's going to do in these other states, it's going to come down to Pennsylvania.
I know.
That's what I was going to say.
Let me before you do that, I'm going to throw something at you and tell me what this means to you. This is the latest update in Arizona shows that Republicans lag Democrats by only 9,103 votes statewide in the combined early vote. Ballots returned by party, Democrats 923,805, Republicans 914,172, Independents 633,600. If you're the Trump people, that's pretty encouraging, right?
I've never done a race in Arizona, but I've had friends that have managed races out there, and they always say we get our butt kicked in early voting, but we come back on election day. This is a different type year because so many people are early voting, but I had not heard that. That seems very promising for me, if as a Trump voter. I think that's really encouraging to the Trump campaign. It is really difficult to try to figure out what those stats truly mean in 2020, just because everything's so irregular. But what people forget is Gary Johnson got 4.1% of the vote in Arizona in 2016. Those were protest votes. Those were people who do not want to vote for Donald Trump, but who were conservatives or libertarians. I just don't see those people flocking in a 60 or 70% way to Joe Biden. Trump won by about 2 or 3 points over Hillary. Both were under 50% in Arizona. So I don't know. My gut is he wins Arizona. He sneaks by in North Carolina. And then it's going to be a crazy night because, as we just said, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, what's so complicated about this, Austin, though, if people think this is – because I've got your map that you sent us right before we started the show. It's not going to go up in front of me.
You need a napkin?
Yeah, I just spilled water all over my phone and the computer and everything, so that was great. We can talk while we're doing it. It's all right. I think we're okay. If that's the case, and those are your 3 swing states at this point, in your opinion, he has to have all of them. So we're not talking about, hey, one or the other, or this route or whatever. Trump has to have all 46 of those electoral votes to get over the 270 threshold.
Yeah, he's got to hit the inside straight on this. I mean, you would much rather be Joe Biden today and tomorrow. He has a much easier chance to win this race. But for people to say Trump has no shot, they're wrong. Does that mean he's going to win? No, but he does. He's got to win these states that are really close, Florida, Texas, which is crazy, Georgia. And when I talk to business partners in Georgia, they say he's going to win. It was really close last time. The state is changing. I think he's going to win it again, and Republicans will hold on to both Senate seats there. And he's got to win North Carolina, Arizona, but Pennsylvania is the key. If he gets that, that's what you just said he had to do, Chase. Win all those states, Arizona, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, he gets to about 280, but he would win.
So I missed some of this because
268 is the highest he can get without all 3. I mean, you give him Pennsylvania and you give him North Carolina. That's 35. Yeah. That's only 268.
Yeah. Wow. Could you imagine if he ended up at 268? Oh gosh, I can't even laugh about that.
The Pennsylvania thing is the one, and I want to get back to something you said just then about the Georgia Senate race, because everything I've looked at, are you saying you expect the Republicans to hold both Senate seats in Georgia? Because I think there's a chance they lose both.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think the polls are that off?
I'm just comfortable that they're going to win both seats there.
Okay.
Remember, there's a special election for dadgummit, I just went blank on the senator who retired, and I can't think of his name, who was a Republican senator who retired earlier this year. The governor appointed a Republican. She's running. It's a 4-way race. One of those Republicans will beat the Dem 6 weeks later, because it's a 6-week runoff there.
Oh, so this is okay. So the Warnock being up 15.6 doesn't
matters nothing.
Okay,
it's a 6-week runoff.
Gotcha.
Probably the congressman whose name I can't remember, who's running against Loeffler, I think is the one who's going to end up in the runoff, and I think he wins.
Yeah, it's Warnock, Loeffler, Collins.
Doug Collins. Yeah.
The 2 Republicans are Warnock's got 39% right now, according to Real Clear Politics. Loeffler has 23.4. Collins has 21.4. They're both Republicans. Then Lieberman, another Democrat, has 5% of the vote. Another Democrat, Tarver, has 1.5, and then Slowinski, who's the Libertarian, has 2.5%. So you're right. That's got 6 more weeks. The other Senate race is a little more competitive. I mean, is a lot different because it's a traditional race. Ossoff, according to Real Clear Politics, the Democrat, has a 1-point lead over David Perdue, so it's all margin of error. It's super close.
Yeah, and I think Trump will end up winning, and Perdue is decently well liked. John Ossoff ran 2 years ago and lost in a close race. So I think that Republicans just barely hold on in Georgia, and that's not just me saying that. I'm really trusting people that are on the ground there who I know and who do politics there really well.
So, had you put a couple other states in that battleground category, who would they've been? Like, what was sort of the last ones that you ended up ticking red or blue?
Michigan?
No, I don't think. I think he's going to get blown out up there. Blown out. I mean, he's going to lose single digits, but I don't think it's going to be close. Wisconsin will be closer than Michigan. Look, Florida's going to be close. It's always close. It's always close. I mean, he's not going to go blow Biden out in Florida, and he could lose. But the Trump campaign shifted some TV money about 10 days ago, maybe a week ago in Florida, to where they were basically just going to rely on the RNC to do TV advertising. That was a clear sign to me they think they've got it won.
That's what I thought too.
You don't go do that if you're not 100% sure, because obviously he didn't win Florida. It's over. So you can't risk that at all. That is,
they've spent so much
races like that before. You don't make that mistake.
They've spent so much time in North Carolina. They obviously think it's pivotal. They've spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania. They obviously know it's they being the Republicans. You can't win without it. And then the interesting one, the reason I said Michigan is they have spent a ton of time and money in Michigan, which makes me think that at least internally they believe there's a shot to steal that. The reason I don't think they're in play in Michigan is because of the Senate race. Yeah. I'm so impressed with James, but it doesn't appear that he's got a real shot to win the race. John James, the Republican, going up against Gary Peters, the Democrat there. Peters is up
+5, +6.
Yeah, he's +5, +5, +7, +5 in 4 different polls: Emerson, Mitchell Research, Reuters, and Epic. So our Real Clear Politics averages Peters +5.5. Peters is kind of a blah candidate. James has some rock star quality about him, but he just hasn't been able to get over the hump. He had a little bit of momentum for a while, but and so I don't know. He was the one that there was a time there when he was getting some momentum that I thought that's going to get interesting because he might be able to sort of pull Trump closer to the finish line there, but it doesn't appear that's the case. So I'm with you. I think this thing is about Pennsylvania. Obviously, if we're wrong about Arizona, if we're wrong about North Carolina, well, then it won't matter, and Biden's going to win the election tomorrow night.
Well, and we'll know real quick. Yeah. I mean, these Eastern time zone states, North Carolina, Georgia, and the vast majority of Florida, if they're not going good for Trump, it doesn't make a damn what happens in Pennsylvania. Right.
But if they do go for Trump, if he wins Georgia and he wins Florida
and North Carolina,
and he wins North Carolina, really then, even if he loses Wisconsin and even if he loses Michigan, and, he's going to win Iowa, I think. He's way up in Iowa, and that Des Moines Register poll doesn't miss. And
That's
so
right.
he's going to get it. He's going to win Iowa. It's not even all that close. All of a sudden, we start talking about Pennsylvania, and guys, that story doesn't end Tuesday night. The Supreme Court ruled that they can continue to count ballots for up to 3 days.
Well, and you're right. And their state law, I believe, prohibits them from counting these early votes until I think the election is over.
Tomorrow morning. Wednesday morning.
You're exactly right. It's a nightmare scenario for the country. Let's just be honest with you.
It is the absolute worst case. People joke about 269 to 269 and all of that. Look, that's not good. We would all get a lesson in constitutional law, and we would see how the country works, and that would be bad enough, but it would be interesting at least. The idea of this thing coming down to one state where if Trump gets it, he's over 270. And where Biden is sitting there at 260 something, and he obviously if he gets Pennsylvania, he's the winner. The idea of that one state sitting there like Florida 2000 on all of the human growth hormone and steroids you can pump into it over the next 3 or 4 days, as volatile as our country is today, is absolute worst case nightmare stuff. And I don't think it's all that unrealistic. We just painted, Chase and I talked about this the other night, we just painted a very realistic scenario, Austin, where Trump wins Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Biden wins Michigan, Wisconsin, Trump wins Iowa and Ohio, and here we go.
Yeah, it is, and nobody wants that scenario. In terms of nobody wants a scenario of what you're saying. 3 days of just the country.
It'd be on fire.
Throat. Nobody wants that.
The country would be on fire for 3 days.
What we all want is we want every vote to be counted fairly and the process to unfold. But man, that's sadly not where we are as a country right now, which is obviously way different than where it was in 2000. So anyway, but I should say Trump could lose Florida. Trump could lose Georgia. Trump could lose North Carolina. Trump could lose Arizona. Probably, maybe could lose Texas because it's so close. So it could be a blowout situation, but it could also be what we've talked about for the last 10 minutes as well.
Is it a Trump thing, or is it just a purple thing in Texas and Georgia and some of these places? I mean, in 4 and 8 years, are we talking about a complete change of what the typical electoral college map maybe looks like? Because Neal and I talked about this on Thursday night. You go back and you look at some of these maps from past years. I'm not even talking about Reagan, Mondale or anything like that, but just in general, if one of the huge electoral states flips, the electoral college becomes such an advantage-disadvantage where, frankly, we're not even having very close elections at that point.
Yeah, that's a great question, particularly on Texas. If you look 2 years ago, Cruz barely won, beat Beto O'Rourke by 1.5, 2 points. But Governor Abbott won by 15 or 18. Obviously, he's as conservative as a Republican as Ted Cruz is. I think it's personality. So I got to say, I think it's probably more, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz personality in those races. And you had a lot of people who wanted to vote against them. A lot of these suburban Houstonians and those who live in Dallas and San Antonio who just wanted to vote against him, both Cruz and Trump. I think that's what it is. But, listen, there are a ton of people from California who are moving into Texas. And a lot of those people are independents or, moderate liberals who are going to vote, more left than they are right.
2 weeks ago, this was over. Trump was done. He had a disastrous first debate. Tested positive for the virus that he has, according to some of the people who go after him, didn't take seriously enough. And then here in these last 2 weeks, he clearly has gained some momentum. I don't know how much. We'll see. He's clearly gained some momentum. He has clearly beaten COVID because dude is maintaining a schedule that, I don't know that I could do it. What he's done day after day after day. And these crowds, and this is what Chase and I talked about, Laura and I have talked about this, I'm sure you've talked about this with people. The thing that is amazing to me is you see the polls, and then you see a day like yesterday where people stand out in Rome, Georgia. They were out there 8, 9, 10 hours before Trump got there, and it's just packed. Middle of a pandemic, it's cold, windy, all of those things. With you as a political consultant, when you see that, do your eyes just stick on the polls, or do you say maybe we're missing something because this doesn't look like? Frankly, it reminds me, if I'm honest, the way that it looks reminds me of Obama in 2008, where everywhere he went, it was just packed, and it was like he was a rock star, and you're like, there's no way this guy's losing. I guess this is the worst question I've ever asked. If I were watching on television and I did not have the benefit of polls, I would think this was going Trump's way.
Well, Austin, before you go there, let me throw a quick aside. Well, what you're describing, though, is also just Trump in 16.
Yeah.
That's really what you're describing. Because,
but he won in 16.
What my point, but polls were off, and you and I have told the story 1,000 times. You called me that morning, and we're sitting in here, and you go, hey, look at the polls. Look at the polling places. Look what's going on. And you go, hey, I don't know that we necessarily understand 100% of what this is right now.
I was arguing with a friend of mine who's a national political journalist, and So I had tweeted, hey, I think Trump actually has a chance. And he was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This guy's not the type of national journalist who is biased. He just thinks that I'm wrong. And I said, listen, man, Biden's got so many of the same qualities, negative qualities, that Hillary had. She ran a terrible campaign. She was so disliked. Joe Biden is not as disliked as Hillary Clinton is by far. He's probably, right side up on the fave, unfave question, his favorable question. Do you like him? Do you not like him? But he has not campaigned. So there is no momentum feel for Joe Biden out there. There's this tremendous turnout, which is obviously great for Joe Biden. But when you go see what y'all have seen and I have seen, I had a friend who drove from Memphis, Tennessee to one of the Trump rallies in Pennsylvania this weekend and said it was just crazy. Obviously, there's something there. Now, a side note, anecdotally, is I remember in 2012 when we were doing the Romney campaign, when we saw all these people at Red Rocks who came out 2 days before for Mitt Romney, and you're like, my gosh, we're going to win Colorado. And then the night before in Manchester, New Hampshire, when I've never seen so many people thinking we're going to win New Hampshire, we lost both. So it's really hard to truly know, but there's obviously something there, particularly with Trump. And I think your Obama analogy comparison example is probably the best one.
If Trump doesn't win, in my opinion, the biggest mistake that he made was staying so obsessed with this Hunter Biden thing and not just hammering one thing. When Biden said in that interview, hey, I'd shut it down, I would have run my entire campaign if I were Trump around, if this guy gets elected, he's going to shut it down. If you reelect me, I'm not going to do that. I actually think he would. I think he would have won, and he might still win, but I think he would have won had he done that.
I'd say his biggest mistake was just totally screwing up the first debate. I think all of his momentum has come since the last debate. It was the second and last debate. He let Biden talk. Biden eventually made that huge mistake, according to some, about his comment about fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Trump didn't seem angry and so forth. I think that would be his biggest mistake, is how he handled that first debate. So, hey, look, and then, of course, we got the U.S. Senate. Republicans are at 53 seats right now. If you're a Republican or a conservative or an independent, if you're an independent, you probably won't divided government. And if you think Biden's going to win, the control of the Senate is slightly important. Republicans are at 53. Before we got on the call, I went through all the states that have competitive races.
Yeah, I've got them up now. What are you looking for?
I think it ends up 50-50 is sort of where I think this thing is. I think the Dems pick up 4 seats, Republicans pick up 1 seat, that'd be Alabama, and we end at 50-50, which is divided government, isn't it?
But if Biden wins, that's a blue wave, right? Because the deciding vote would always be Harris.
Yeah, but I think when they've had 50, you're right, that is true. But when they've had 50-50 before, in terms of how the committees work, I think they're pretty, they kind of balance it with Republicans and Democrats trying to have equal power. But that's just my guess.
I'm big on, last couple minutes here, I'm big on political messages. If I tell you right now that Biden wins and it's either 50-50 or 51-49 Democrats in the Senate, what's the message that got sent?
I think people would be very unhappy with how Trump handled COVID. I think there would just be, people would say, independents mostly, soft R's would go, you know what, I couldn't take it anymore. I was sort of burned out on Trump fatigue. I wanted something different. Biden seems, fine, milquetoast. We'll see what happens. We can vote him out in 4 years. He ain't going to run again in 4 years. That would be the message. That's the message. If Biden gets 300 plus electoral votes, we lose some governor's races and lose control of the Senate.
Say Trump wins, whether it's Tuesday, whether it takes till Friday or Saturday, whatever. Donald Trump gets reelected. The Senate is either 50-50 or it's 51-49 Republican. What's the message that got sent?
I wish I could take credit for this, and I won't say who told me this, but it's a giant middle finger from most of America, from Middle America particularly, I think a lot um, to reporters,
I do too.
to the media, just saying, forget you guys. We're tired of you. We're tired of not being able to trust you. This is our guy, so on and so forth.
I do too. I think it tells two things. I think it tells you that Donald Trump just defies polls because of who he is. And if it happens, I think it is a giant middle finger at the media. All of us. Hey, appreciate your time. I know you'll be we'd love to get you back on later in the week to tell you once it's over, so you can tell us once it's over what it means.
Okay, guys. Talk then.
All right.
Have a good one.
That's Austin Barbour.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Ooh, it's tomorrow. Well, like we were never going to get here. If nothing else, it is tomorrow. So that's a positive.
Podcast brought to you in part by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They've got clients in more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states as well. It's pintrust.com, P-I-N-N trust.com. Get in touch with them. They'll build a financial and retirement plan built just for you. Also tell them that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fees. Brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. Thinking about a trip, get in touch with John. He can find you deals that you can't find on your own. There's deals to be had out there right now. 901-494-3387 or jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients save $50 off their first book trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. Also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, that's the place to go. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. It's Live Oxford, bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. Also brought to you by Bain, Moss & Bowen, located in historic downtown Corinth. Their firm practices a wider range of law, from DUI defense to car wrecks to representing government entities. 618 East Waldron Street in Corinth, or you can call them at 662-287-1620. And we're brought to you by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James, a team in Jackson providing planning and investment guidance to clients across the state and surrounding areas. Financial advisors Bill Geary, Logan Phillips, Chris Carrero, and Ryan Geary are partners with a commitment to personalized service. Call them at 601-368-2215 and see if they might be a good fit for your financial goals. Raymond James & Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC.
Podcast is brought to you by Tyson Drugs and G&M Pharmacy. That's Tyson Drugs in Holly Springs. G&M is there on South Lamar in Oxford. 662-236-2222 is the phone number. They deliver locally in the Oxford area. They got Right Way Meds to package your medications individually to be able to take it when it is needed and make it simple and not like any mistakes happening that could end up saving your life in the process. So, again, that's Tyson Drugs, G&M in Holly Springs and Oxford. 662-236-2222.
Got some games on the schedule this week, some early lines. Have you looked at them?
I can pull them up.
I've pulled them up. I've got a few here ready for you, believe it or not.
Sure.
It's got some lines up for this week. Won't spend a lot of time on it because got stuff to do. BYU and Boise State playing a pretty important game between
Look, BYU, real shot here to go undefeated. Got a very entertaining quarterback. Yeah. I mean, I think you have an undefeated season and I guess it's virtual, but a Heisman invite on the line for the BYU quarterback if they go undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to win, but I think he gets an invite and goes.
Liberty, a 14.5-point dog at Virginia Tech.
The ranked Flames.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing a poll right now, they're in your poll.
Why not? Sure.
Florida's 4.5-point underdog versus Georgia in Jacksonville. Vanderbilt getting 18 at Mississippi State. The fact that the number is only 18 tells you what Vegas thinks of the Bulldogs.
But you're still thinking State to cover, right?
I think so. They got to score. They don't look like a team that can score.
Yeah, but, I mean.
Dude, they don't look like a team that can score.
You watch Vanderbilt.
I suffered through 3 hours of that the other day, yes.
I can't take them to cover and turn the game on. So, if they cover, then great, and we'll all sit down and we'll watch another one of those post-game videos and we'll cackle and have a big time. But I just can't. No. No, I'm good. What else you got?
Miami is at NC State. The Canes a 9.5-point favorite. Air Force getting 5.5 at Army. West Virginia getting 7 at Texas. The Horns got a winning streak going. Michigan a 3-point favorite at Indiana. Indiana's a fun story. Talked about Vanderbilt. Let's see. Texas A&M is a 7.5-point favorite at South Carolina.
7.5, huh?
Yep. Ole Miss will be watching that one. Tennessee a 1.5-point favorite at Arkansas. That's the SEC Network game. And then, of course, the national game that everyone will be watching. Clemson, 6.5-point favorite without Trevor Lawrence at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think we can overreact to the Boston College thing a little bit.
Oh,
if we're not
for
careful. Sure. OddsShark has 21-0 State over Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I can see that.
State's not going to score in the 50s.
Curious to see how checked in State is.
Look, there's one thing on going, hey, we got to get better players, and we'll probably purge some people in the process. There's a whole other thing in going, hey, you guys all suck, and I'm kicking some of you off the team right now in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Tone-wise.
Yeah.
You won't just lose your team, you'll lose your program. There's a difference. It can be a carryover where you can't get them back.
State's got a quarterback thingy going on.
And you got a lot of home pressure to play Rodgers going on.
For sure. That's happening.
Especially with Costello being banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, and they both looked whatever. I mean, I watched that video the night, and it's like, well, I mean, Will really, makes his teammates want to play harder, and it's like,
it's cute.
It's like,
I mean, so did Rudy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and Rudy was offside. So what's the point? Like, okay, and I'm not saying Will Rogers is the best guy. That's not my point. I'm just saying they've got stuff going on is what I'm talking about.
All over the place.
Yeah, I have no idea who's the better quarterback in Starkville.
Now, whether Mason can get anybody on that roster to care is self-included is another issue. So. I'm with Grind. I completely agree. He says this was the best roster that Leach is ever going to have at Mississippi State.
Never going to have a defense like this, and never going to have a running back like Kylan.
Where are you going to get Kylan Hill?
Yeah. Pick him off the team. He played 2 games.
Kylan Hill will play in the NFL for years, assuming that he doesn't have some sort of a major injury. Dude's an NFL back, and you're like, we don't need you. You can't adapt your offense a little bit to accommodate Kylan Hill?
Yeah, hey, hand him the ball. There's the deal. All he could do in the opener against LSU was catch it out of the backfield. Now, he was damn good at it, but...
Well, I know. So that's my point. You've got Kylan Hill. Now, I've never coached other than one powder puff game in high school. But if I walk in, I'm like, okay, well, here's my dude. I've got a dude. Now, he doesn't fit exactly what I do.
We're going to do what the dude does.
But I'm going to mix in some of that, and then I'm going to work on some other things. Oh, he can catch it out of the backfield? Oh.
Now we're cooking.
Well, now you're cooking. And they just said, oh, no, that's not what we do. Right? To me, red flag.
No, look, Leach is a lot of things. One of them is stubborn. By God, we are running this. We have a system, and we are going to try to implement this system, and whatever that takes, that's what that takes. And here's the thing with Leach. He's got this odd patience about him where look, he's won at Texas Tech to a certain degree. He's won at Washington State to a certain degree. He's won an Outpost. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of patience in conferences and organizations to do that. His lack of urgency, he's in the SEC now, and even at Mississippi State, there is a expectation that you start at least moving in the right direction. He's not getting 5 years to put some plan in place right now.
Well, and who was the receiver he had at Texas Tech that was so good?
Michael Crabtree.
And they had a good quarterback on that team.
It was Graham Harrell.
Yeah. And he had Minshew fall in his lap at Washington State. Now, I give him credit.
Yeah.
He saw something and took him.
Sure.
But Gardner's an NFL player. Got to have players.
Yeah.
I have some issues about whether they can find those players.
Yeah, I agree.
We're also brought to you by The Rogue. We'll get together. Ole Miss and South Carolina is a 6:30 game. not this weekend, but next
Oh,
weekend.
yeah,
So
6:30.
we'll start at
4:30.
4:30 with by the Rogue.
And we'll be with you for a while.
Yep, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, 601-362-6383. Also brought to you by Heritage Properties, home to 3 communities in Oxford: Faulkner Flats, Cambridge Station, Lexington Point. All 3 properties, multifamily housing. They all offer on-site management and maintenance, pet-friendly, and they offer short-term leases. To learn more, call them at 662-234-4558.
Yeah, look, Leach is – oh, God. I mean, last thing here. Is Leach or Moorhead a better fit?
I think Moorhead had the potential to be a better fit if they just would have had some patience.
They tried to turn Moorhead into Mullen.
Yeah, they did.
No.
They should have let Moorhead be himself. I mean, look, we'll see, because they don't have the money to buy Leach out today. He's here for a couple of years minimum.
Tom Allen, the new David Cutcliffe, in a spot for him where, hey, he probably doesn't have a crazy ceiling as a coach, but, hey, I can win some games and do some things at a basketball school that are going to make them keep me in forever. It's got a higher upside than Duke. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, maybe so. Could stay there for a long time. People who know Tom like him. He's a great guy. He's got a good staff. They've recruited some good players. There's not a ton of pressure there. Yeah, sure. The thing about Tom Allen is Tom wants to win big.
He's an intense son of a gun.
I mean, he's not going to sit there in the back of his mind and go, we could go 8-4 here every year and always kind of go to one of the Big Ten middle tier.
With $50 million in the bank, and we'll call
I don't
it a day.
think he thinks that way. I'm not saying Cutcliffe does, but Cutcliffe got offered that Tennessee job and was like, I don't think so.
No, there was a cooker there that.
Yeah, Tom Allen gets offered the Tennessee job. He's taking it.
Yeah, let's go see what happens.
Yeah, it's just different people.
Yeah. Anyway, appreciate Austin for his time today. Again, thoughts with Damarcus Thomas. We'll update you on the message board and on rebelgrove.com and social media and wherever when we hear anything with that. I think we next get somebody Ole Miss related on Wednesday after the day off tomorrow. So we'll have coverage of whatever we can. Ole Miss in a bye week. Ole Miss and South Carolina in 12 days from Oxford. Again, 6:30 start with that. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.